40, look who's 40. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the WADcast, episode number 40. Whew. Glad to be here after a brief hiatus. I am Josh, and I am here with I'm here as always with the guy that would never fly off to Mexico during a bad situation. Yeah, I went there.
My God.
You know, I had it written down better, I swear, but I just screwed it. Brandon, what's up, man?
What's up, buddy? And I would definitely fly the hell out of Texas to Mexico during a crisis and forsaking every single person in that little shithole town because of the fact that I don't do snow. I was raised in it, never again. So at that point, every man for himself. And yeah, I'll come back when the snow melts and all the pipes aren't busted anymore.
I do believe you also mean every woman for themselves, too, because
every
want to be insensitive.
Man, woman, dog, cats, people dressed in drag, people identify what I don't care who the hell you are on your own. I won't even give them a second thought.
Good to know.
They're expendable.
Just don't run for office ever, and this won't come back to haunt you.
Oh man.
Well, why don't you tell the people what we're in store for tonight and introduce our special guest?
Well, you know, we're usually pretty good with like holidays or things of remembrance or stuff like that. And this, unless you're an absolute living under the rock and you don't care, it is Black History Month. Now, that being the case, you and I have discussed that we were going to talk about the past, present, potential future of not just Black cinema, but the Black actors, directors, crew members, anyone that makes it happen. That is a person of color, not because let's face it, there's plenty of us white guys here. And we actually have a special guest to go through all this with us tonight. That I actually have not really, I don't think I've spoken to or with in any kind of vocal manner since way back in the Just Kicking It days. In like 2013 or 14. God, years.
It's been a minute.
It's been a hot minute. So, but yeah, I guess we have our special guest, our first one in a while, and old co-podcaster, Kinte Fergerson. Buddy, how you doing?
I'm doing great, and I'm glad to be here.
Oh, we are glad to have you.
All right.
You know what that tells me, Kinte?
What's that?
Someone doesn't listen to Cinema du Fromage.
Yeah, you're right. I really don't listen to a whole lot of podcasts. No matter how much I may like you guys, chances are I'm too self-absorbed. No, I work too much.
Well, we'll have time to plug stuff and really get into it later. So this isn't going to be like our normal, hey, tell us your life story podcast with a guest, because we want to actually, get into a specific topic. But for some background purposes, Kinte, why don't you tell us a little about yourself, where you're from, and how this all comes together?
Sure. Yeah, my name is Kinte, and I am from Los Angeles, California. I've been a podcaster for over a decade, filmmaker, and just, I guess, a social critic as well. You can say. I've known you for about 7 years, 7 years,
7, 8 years, something like that.
Yeah, and we used to do a podcast together about the television show Dexter. We currently
too.
Yeah, it was a very good show.
Oh God, yeah, you guys just completely aged both of you with that sentence.
Right. Well, not to we did do a Different Strokes podcast too when it was on.
Yeah.
But we're not going to talk about that one.
But that podcast was probably through like solo cups.
Right. Yeah.
All right. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But no. So we and then we currently do a program called Cinema du Fromage, which is on hiatus, but we're going to get that going as well. So. I'm happy to be here and looking forward to this topic tonight.
Now, maybe I could just be reading the whole situation wrong, but Kinte, would you say that who you are as a person has something to do with how you were raised and your race?
Oh, definitely. I was raised by wonderful parents who are Black activists, and I grew up in the activist community, and I have an arts background. Even though I can't draw a lick, I can't draw stick figures, but I grew up in the arts, and yeah, definitely, 100%.
Good, because I know after knowing you for a number of years, when certain situations arise involving race, especially, you take a very vested interest in looking into it and finding out exactly what's going on, which is the main reason why I thought you'd be a great guest for tonight's show and tonight's topic, because it is something that is important to you.
Oh, very much so. Definitely. Yeah. And I have very strong opinions, so get ready, people.
You have okay. You know what? I got called out for not listening to the other show. Kinte, have you listened to the show before?
Of course.
Then I am very self-centered. So you know that we have strong opinions too.
Right.
I don't know if you caught the episode with the whole cuties thing.
But... You know what? I did not, and
okay,
that would have been a good one for me to be on as well.
But with that, we also had we actually had a special guest. Like someone that I'm very fond of. Sue was a special guest of ours on that show, and it just turned into a full out like rated, NC-17 due to the language, because I just run off of her. But it was very opinionated, so. That, whereas it's not so much about race as it is about exploitation of children.
Right.
There are a lot of sensitive subjects in the film industry that are still, for some reason, considered taboo. Tons, and it just seems that's one thing I love about this show, and I'm going to have to start listening to the other show because it seems like with shows like ours, we're not pandering to the popular thought or the train of criticism and ridicule, or praise for that matter.
Right.
It's just very much raw observations and logic and unfiltered. So, but no. So I mean, I'm very happy to have your opinions on here, man. I really am. I've been looking forward to this. I was hoping that we would do some kind of show for Black History Month and talking about the horrors that started with the Black community in film, which, as we all know, were not Black people playing Black people,
right?
For the most part, aside from Gone with the Wind and the horrid Oscar situation there, but so it's like I'm very happy to have you on the show and discuss this with us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Because this is something I'm looking forward to, and I've already pissed off a few people discussing this online.
Well, it only took 40 episodes for him to finally get me on the show, but who's counting? I love you.
Oh my God. That's right. Josh, you called me out, he called you out. That's how it works, buddy. Enjoy it.
Well, at least he didn't wait till 100. I guess I should look at the bright side.
Yeah. Could have been much later.
It's actually funny. I was telling Josh while we were getting everything set up. My girlfriend is Black. We have some cultural differences, and by some I mean quite a few. And there's a lot of misunderstanding there. But when I mentioned to her that tonight was going to be an episode based on Black History Month and Black cinema over the last century and up to today and future situations, her first words were, "It's like, and do you have a Black person on the show to discuss this?" I'm like, "What?" Not that would stop us, but yes, we do.
No, that's good. Hey, we did a show on White History Year, and we had white people on. So,
yeah.
think we had Josh on.
Oh.
Yes.
If ever there was a white person to have on, it would be Josh.
Yeah.
And I spoke
Okay.
like this.
Josh, did you say "Gee golly willikers" at all?
Several times
Oh my God.
while I was eating a mayonnaise sandwich.
Oh, wow. You know what's funny?
My God.
My buddy was over and he was eating actually mayonnaise. He's a brother too. He was eating mayonnaise sandwiches, and I was like, "Really, dude? Like, who eats that? Who eats that?" Yeah.
Now, I'll be honest, I haven't had one in many, many years, but, I did not grow up wealthy. And, yeah, sometimes the only thing you got to stick between some pieces of bread is a little bit of mayonnaise.
And,
Well, I did grow up quite wealthy. I was born in the ham. No, I'm just kidding. I was not. No, I mean, I wasn't like, it wasn't Dickens or anything, but I wasn't, wealthy. So.
Oh, listen, man. My mom did the best she could raising two boys by herself. I'll tell you right now, like at the age of like 5 or 6 years old, when my mom had Kraft mac and cheese and cut up hot dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man,
it was the best ever, right?
You an ape shit. And then I think I had like a potato chip sandwich one time with ketchup on it. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. So now if I'm really that broke, and I have like bread and potato chips, that's usually my go-to. Like, oh my God, I've got Pringles.
I remember a friend of mine, he grew up really poor, and he went to the movies to see the Hunger Games, the first one with his girlfriend, and he was saying, "This ain't shit. We used to compete a lot more for food than this movie." So he's like, "Yeah, that movie ain't nothing." So it's all perspective.
Speaking of movies and perspective, see what I did there?
Great segue.
Someone brought up, the Oscars, the Academy Awards, and Hattie McDaniel. And somebody want to very briefly explain what the situation was there?
Sure. Do you want me to?
Sure.
Oh, real quick before we get into this. Hi, Mom. It's still my favorite too. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
My mom's watching the game, guys. Go ahead.
Well, Hattie McDaniel, she was an African American actress who was had a big part in the film Gone with the Wind, which came out, I believe, in the late 30s, was it? And she won an Oscar. She was the first Black person to win an Oscar. And what people don't know, they always love to talk about her winning the Oscar, but she wasn't allowed to receive the Oscar at the actual award ceremony. They actually had another whole ceremony, which was in the Black community. And not only that, they wouldn't even allow her to be buried in the Hollywood cemetery too when she passed away. So it's like it's funny how they love to show her winning, but they don't put the context of what she had to go through. And I think it's very important. And when Monique won for the movie Precious, she made a point to give her praise and to shout her out and to talk about what, she had to go through, in winning this award. So it's something that I feel like people do need to understand, because I think people see, you see Denzel winning, or you see Lupita Nyong'o or whoever, and you have to understand the people that came before them and what they went through. I think it's very important to understand that they didn't just hand them out, whether they, if you think it's deserving or not, they were shut out. Black people.
Oh yeah. See, it's like I'm familiar with. I mean, there are things. I went to film school. There are things that they teach you that are absolutely atrocious. And I've read about that during like one of my assignments, because Black history was actually one of the things that I had. We drew things out of pretty much out of a hat for a writing assignment for film history, and mine was pretty much. And I actually pulled up. I found some of my old notes from college and updated them over the course of today. But there are so many things that, honestly, from the get-go of the film industry, that almost right out of the gate created these stereotypes for the black community. And one that I came across earlier that I remember the movie and I know it very well, but Birth of the Nation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the whole movie, Josh, I don't know if you're familiar with this movie or not, or even Kinte, I'm not too sure if you are, buddy, but...
Oh, I am.
Okay, so then, so for the listeners, Birth of the Nation is about a black man stalking a young white woman who's in distress the whole film. Now, as if that's not bad enough, the black man is played by a white man wearing blackface. And it just caused like this ripple effect in the way black culture was viewed over like the decades that were following it. But it was just like disgusting. It wasn't really until like the civil rights movement when with the Civil Rights Act, when they stopped when they started enacting the desegregation, and they were able to actually place black students in the very few film programs at the time that were available. That's where they learned like the crafts of like lighting, composition, storytelling, the tools that they really needed to make films that properly represent what it meant to be black in like the country that was at that time rapidly changing. Mm-hmm. And I would actually argue it was not really until that time that the black community really had its fair shot. Despite Stephen, what's his name? Stephen
Fetcher.
Yes, him. Because I think he's actually considered to be like the first black actor to actually have a really successful career in acting.
Right.
But I think it was. I would argue that it's not until like really like the '60s or even like the '70s that it really started. Like the tables started turning a little bit, where stories from your own community could actually be told in the way that your community felt that they should be told.
Right. And just to kind of circle back to Birth of a Nation, for some of those, there was a film that came out in 2016 called The Birth of a Nation. You are referring to, Brandon, is the 1915 film.
Oh, yes.
I believe it was 1915 film Birth of a Nation. You
know what? I honestly forgot about the one from a few years ago, so thank you for clarifying that. I honestly totally forgot that one even was around. I saw it, but it was just I've seen so many since then. Not to be dismissive of it. I mean, it was just like one of those, the big one that started a whole lot of like controversy and like I guess really egged on that fear. I guess. Yeah,
as D.W. Griffin was the director of that film. And it was the film that was taught in film schools even to this day, because I believe it was considered the first blockbuster film.
Yes,
and and they always say, oh look, it from a cinematic standpoint they always try to teach it as some sort of teaching tool, but it's a horrible film and had a lot of black people murdered because of the film.
Can I tell you, in my film class, when they had us watch this,
mm-hmm.
I was one of very few white people in my class. For this particular class where we had like the film histories class, one of the very few white people. Like I was like, we all got along, we all had a great time together. But I remember them showing this movie, and my teacher's like, "Oh, that was like one of the earliest like big hit, like big like sold out films. Like it was." It's historical. You guys have to watch this. I'm watching this film, and I just sat back, and I felt embarrassed for the teacher because he seemed to like want to make a point, but every other face in the room was just horrified.
Yes,
like horrified or honestly pissed off. I'm like.
Yeah, it's atrocious, and it actually helped as a recruitment tool for the Ku Klux Klan. So, the Ku Klux Klan, because a lot of people don't know this, that up until that film, the Ku Klux Klan was almost dissipated, and it was like a dead organization, and this actually revived the Ku Klux Klan. So, it has a horrible history and a horrible legacy. And it really sets the place of what cinema was used for propaganda, specifically against Black people. And, you know, if you want to get real deep in the weeds about Hollywood was the entertainment industry was its initial purpose was to justify slavery. So you're going to go back to even earlier entertainment. You had the minstrels, and you had negative imagery of Africans or African Americans or Black people, eating watermelon and all these different stereotypes. And the ideal purpose was to justify keeping Black people enslaved. So Hollywood has had a long history of propaganda specifically against Black people. And this film was it wasn't the first thing in that, but it was definitely a high point in that. And like you said, it wasn't until you got to the 70s when you started to get the Black exploitation films, which, to a certain degree had an empowering, it had some empowerment when it came to Black people. You started to see, Black people taking on the man, and all of that kind of stuff. But a lot of those films weren't directed by Black people, or even written by Black people as well. But kind of like the godfather of them all was a film called Sweet Badass Song.
Yep.
It was directed by Melvin Van Peebles. And a lot of people consider that the first Black exploitation film. And so Melvin Van Peebles, who's Mario Van Peebles, if you remember Mario Van Peebles from what was the show he was on? Not Silver Spoons.
Oh God.
Silly Spoons. Yep. It was the show from back in the day. I'm really dating myself. And then of course he directed and starred in the film New Jack City as well as other films. And Solo. We won't talk about Solo. But it was his father that did that film. So, but then you had Black filmmaker Oscar Micheaux, and Oscar Micheaux was he was one of the early Black filmmakers who really put a dent in showing that Black life, and he was somebody that was really big in like the 50s and whatnot. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't know about him, but he was a filmmaker that, from the early 1910s to the 50s, when he was, when he died. And he did so many films, and he got them made himself. And some of those films were definitely big in the Black community.
Oh, yeah. And the thing is he still remains to be celebrated to this day, though.
Right.
Because with him, like people, because a lot of people see you're talking about names that I myself know, because again, film history, like this is stuff that was beat into our heads, like just like telling us like about all these different cultures, all these like races, like between the Jewish community, the white community, the Hispanic community, because there were actually Hispanic films too back in the 50s and 60s, which I wasn't even aware of, because Hollywood, let's be honest, has been so whitewashed for so goddamn long. That like these are things that it's like, think of like the history books. We grew up with the history books reading about pilgrims and Indians sitting down eating turkey and corn together when it was really like a very horrific situation. It's like what the real story is kept in the background.
Right.
But like, he had what was that? God, what was that movie that he directed? I thought was amazing. The Spider's Web. I think.
Yeah, it's
like it was like 1920s, man. This is like an old one. But yeah, like but no, it's like he's. No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off for that.
Yeah, you're right. The Spider's Web.
Oh, is it the Spider's Web? Oh, go me! Wow.
Right. No,
I know things.
Yeah, it's good.
No, but he was actually very prolific, and he was also very hated.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know how he died, but I assume it was natural causes, because I think it was in the 50s that he passed away.
Right. I think he had maybe like heart failure or something.
Okay. Because I mean, I'm surprised. Like, with honestly, with the stuff that he put out, and like as honestly as revered as he was then by one side of the country, but hated by the other side, I'm surprised that it was natural causes that did him in, just because of how like the country was back then.
Right.
But like as far as what you're saying with the blaxploitation films, like I like that it made them into. I actually mentioned that in my notes. So how did I put it earlier? Okay, yeah. So during the 70s with blaxploitation films, the characters quite a lot of times the heroes in his movies that were like the black actors, they were painted more as like anti-heroes in a lot of those films. But they were also really like quite a bit depicted as like black men that were like drug dealers, pimps, thieves, killers, or something. But that even the way Hollywood depicted them at that point in time, like they may have been like more like the anti-heroes, like the Punisher for like Marvel Comics in some of these films. Because man or women, like let's face it, Pam Grier. I mean, come on, man.
Foxy Brown. Foxy Brown.
Yep. But the thing is, like, for the people that saw these films, it still instilled this sense of fear in them of that community. Because like all they would have to do is research the facts. So they could actually take a more realistic representation of black culture at the time versus what was being shown on screen. So in a way, it's like as much as it was liberating, at the same time, it was also to an extent damning for the community as well. For any kind of like, God, I don't know how to really say this the right way, so I'm just going to be fucking blunt about it. Nope, there's my one for the episode. It was liberating to an extent because it was like more in line with the careers for the students of like the 60s that were able to attend these film programs and work on these sets, but it was also damning for these students because they were still made to be viewed in some sort of light through the fiction of cinema.
Right.
So
now we'd be remiss to point out there was a film that came out in 1973, and it was called The Spook Who Sat by the Door, and it was directed by Ivan Dixon, who was a great actor of his time as well, written based on a novel by author Sam Greenlee. And that film scared the hell out of people because the premise of the film was that this black man who was in the FBI, he took his skills and then he brought it to the black community, and he used it to help teach black people to get revolution. And that film lasted like 1 week in the theaters. They pulled it, and it was like one of those films that was like they hid that movie for years. Like now you can get it thanks to what's his name, Reed, Daphne Reed's husband. Oh God, I'm having a brain fart. You know him from like the Love Boat. But the black guy, oh my God, Reed, his last name is Reed. Anyway, he helped get that film redid and packaged and whatnot. And so that was one of those things that, that was a high point in black cinema that actually a lot of people don't know about, but that film is great, and as is the novel, and very deep. So, I mean, there were some good films, but overall, like you said, that it was playing up on the worst parts of the black community and pushing negative imagery. And although some of these films are beloved by our community, but, in a lot of ways, it did do damage.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one day we got to do a watch party and watch Spook Who Sat by the Door.
I'm down with it.
Yeah.
I have never seen the. I don't think I've ever seen it.
Oh yeah, it's a great film.
You and I are over here talking about old school. I hate to use the word, but relatively obscure names here. Mm-hmm. Josh, are you there?
Oh yeah. I'm sitting back, taking a nice history lesson. That's exactly what I was aiming for when the show idea came up.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, Those of you listening, whenever or wherever you are taking in the information, learning a little something, and really getting just a slightest taste of just what it was like and the obstacles that were very intentionally put into the way of anybody that wanted to kind of break through to a mainstream audience as a black actor back in the day. In fact, if I'm going to throw my hat into this ring, I can only really think of one really decent-ish role model character, we'll say pre-1940.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you're familiar with it, but there was a comedian. His name's Jack Benny.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not familiar with him.
We at Simicor Studios honor him, even though we've been on hiatus. Honor him every Sunday night by airing a classic episode of his radio program right here, Simicor Studios. It's called Sunday Nights with Jack Benny. And what Jack Benny is mostly known for is, of course, his comedy, his self-deprecating humor, being a cheapskate. That was his gimmick. But when it comes to the radio show, people don't always give the supporting cast, the ensemble, the credit it deserves for basically creating the ensemble comedy for radio and television. And one of the characters on that show, Rochester, yes, he played a butler, butler type, but I can't think of another character that I can't think of another black character from that era that was not only given the respect of the other, the white cast, but also was given the opportunity to repeatedly make the guy he works for look like a fool.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, especially during radio, by the way, old-time radio fan here, you had other shows like Amos and Andy that really perpetuated a stereotype, and like you were mentioning before, Brandon, at the time when it was radio, played by a couple of white guys. They didn't switch up the cast until moving to television because I don't know exactly, so it's not a story that I can tell. But Rochester became a beloved radio and television personality because of the Jack Benny Show. And I'm not going to say that this single character healed or mended any kind of racial tensions or made any racial relations easier during his time on the air. But from a hindsight perspective, I'll say, I would hope that those that listen to the show and were fond of this character really understood just how rare it was and how important
his name is Eddie Anderson.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody have any thoughts on?
No. I mean, yeah, he's. I definitely take him over Amos and Andy. That's for sure. No, yeah, he was he was a very big person in. I mean, not just the black community, but overall, definitely a pioneer. So yeah, he definitely needs to be, mentioned. So for sure.
Well, see, there's one movie. There's one movie that I remember. I remember studying this one movie from 1978, and not. It's not a blaxploitation film because I look at it like, okay, in my honest opinion of blaxploitation films, these are usually films that are almost always inevitably, most times, not all times, but most times, written and directed by someone that is not black.
Right.
It's their take on that community. Like, oh well, I want to show these guys for being like the badasses that they are. We're going to get society to accept them. Oh look, we got a black guy running around shooting people. Oh, he killed a white person. It'll be a hit. Like it's like that's how these movies play out to me, like quite a bit. But there's this movie from 1978 directed by Charles Burnett called Killer of Sheep.
Mm-hmm. Charles Burnett.
Oh, are you familiar with it?
Yeah, Charles Burnett. Yeah, he's one of the.
Yeah, but this movie was something that was written by him, and this is like another one of my old notes from 2006 from college. But with him, like it was written as like a thesis for him, and this like when he was a grad student at UCLA's film program, and he made this film for less than $10,000. But this movie did not really get. I mean, mind you, it was filmed in I think 1970. Yeah, let me see, 1975. Let me just look this up real quick. 1 second. I think 1975. Oh God, I'm good. Okay, all right. So it was shot in 1975. It wasn't really released until 1978. But it's pretty much it helped pretty much really kind of brought out like a new kind of black independent cinema for that time frame. It didn't come out for a while later because he just pretty much he couldn't get the I think it has something to do with like the soundtrack or the songs in the film. He wasn't able to get the clearances for the songs, but this film is listed as being so significant. I think that actually was at the library. Let me see. Okay, I heard this. The Library of Congress declared Killer of Sheep as a national treasure, as added to the National Film Registry in 1990 for being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. Oh, took the word right out of my mouth. But pretty much it was one of very few films that he made, like in the decades that that came after Killer of Sheep came out. He hasn't really done much as far as directing since then. Very few projects.
No, he did like To Sleep with Anger, which I believe came out in the early 90s. And then he did that Ice Cube movie, The Glass Shield.
Yeah.
And, just little stuff here and there. He's actually a really good friend of my mother's.
My God, we need to get him on the show at some point.
Yeah.
I would love to talk to him.
Definitely, right. He's and it's funny, I haven't had the opportunity to meet him, but I'm definitely a big fan of his work, and he's a wonderful talent, and he's definitely one of those people who, he's a trailblazer.
Yeah,
he's an absolute trailblazer, and he teaches cinema as well. So, yeah, for sure.
But I think honestly, looking back in the 70s and everything else, you had the cinemas which held, for the most part, one perception of the black community.
Mm-hmm.
Television held the other side.
Oh, yes.
Because television actually showed that there's a whole nother spectrum, and that, like, oh my God, they're just like us white people. It's like, because you have things like the show What's Happening. You have the Jeffersons. Oh God. I know it. It's the old God, Red Fox. What was that movie?
Oh, Sanford and Son.
That's it. Yes. God, it was on the tip of my tongue. But you had like this. You had these like the big, like budget box office action films, loaded with tits and ass and everything else, sex, violence, murder, whatever, mayhem. But then you had the TV shows that, while for the most part, yeah, they were sitcoms, they showed very real situations that they dealt with.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these shows showed flat out like these good people dealing with racism in certain episodes, or like actually quite a few episodes, to be honest with you. But honestly, I think that's like really where things started turning around a little bit for the better, is through the television shows that actually showed like the more sentimental side and the whole familial aspect of things.
Yeah, in our chat, William says Julia and the Mod Squad. Those were two big ones. Diane Carroll as well as Clarence Williams III. So
Okay, yeah, but yeah, I mean, that was just like a point I want to bring up real quick since I have it right in front of me. But yeah, it's like, I mean, it's, I don't know. It's honestly, it wasn't until like really, I want to say like the 80s until they were more open to showing a different side of the Black community and culture in mainstream cinema. Because I mean, it was sprinkled in here and there in the 70s, very vaguely, very, very, very vaguely in the 60s, and like very light codes that you barely even notice. But 70s it started coming in, and then 80s I think is where it started actually like kind of picking up a little bit more. But they still seem to focus quite a bit on the aspect of like just, again, in films, like, okay, well, life in the ghetto or something like that. You don't really see a whole lot of the still the familial aspect in quite a few of those films.
Yeah, it's like it's one of those things where you very rarely get like especially up and to that point, you got a great depiction of Black people. Now you did have Bill Cosby in I Spy, which was
absolutely
was a different look. And then of course he went on to do the Cosby Show, which was huge, in changing that narrative. But and then to be fair to those programs, what's happening in Sanford and Son as well as Good Times were terrific programs. And Eric Monty was the guy who really created Good Times, as well as the Jeffersons and some other programs. He didn't get his just due. Eric Monty, who I did have an opportunity to meet.
That's awesome.
It was a talented writer, and he wrote the movie Coolie High as well.
Yep.
And just a terrific talent. And that show, especially in the first several years, Good Times was a terrific program.
Oh yeah, and I mean, I gotta say, like Coolie High. I remember seeing that movie. I was like, wow, that's actually a pretty damn good movie. Something I was not expecting to see. Because like, oh god, Coolie High. That was that was Michael Schultz, I think, that directed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and he did like a bunch of stuff. William says, unfortunately, due to the pushback of Black exploitation in the 1970s, Black people in film were virtually absent until Eddie Murphy in the 80s. That's true. And, Eddie Murphy...
That's a good point.
Eddie Murphy definitely made a huge impact because, like a movie like Boomerang, for example, was huge because you didn't see Black people in film depicted as not necessarily, super poor. They were high upper class, ad execs, doing their thing. And it was, that film was huge, as well as, of course, Spike Lee. And I would say, like, a lot of people, Black people that work in the industry, is if they're not directly in the industry because of Spike Lee, they're indirectly because he put so many people in the industry, and those seeds produced other people that got into the industry. So him and Eddie Murphy did a great job of getting people within the industry. And there's a person I definitely got to mention who is my dream interview. Who knows if he ever hears this? I say it every time I can. The great Avery Brooks.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay.
Avery Brooks, for those who don't know, some may know him as Cisco, which was, I'm not a big Star Trek guy, but so if I get it off, if I'm slightly off, forgive me. But he was he was the first Black captain of a starship on a Star Trek TV show. Deep Space Nine, I believe it was, right?
He was the commander of the space station, yeah.
Okay. And that's what people kind of know him for the most. But he was on a show before that called Spencer for Hire, and it starred Robert Urich as the main character, and he played a character called Hawk. And Hawk was the coolest person on television. And he was a brother from Chicago who didn't take no shit. And he had a big gun and he was smooth and everybody loved Hawk. And the great story behind it, and I would love to get him on, to talk about it. And yes, I'm shooting my shot. Is that the cool thing was they hired him to be the standard sidekick black guy. He got the role and then he just remixed the role himself. And he said, nah, I ain't doing that coon stuff. I'm going to have a big gun. I'm going to talk like he redid his own lines. And at first they hated him. They wanted him gone, but he became such a big part of the show. They couldn't get rid of him. And he was just amazing. And then he got a spinoff show called A Man Called Hawk. And that show only lasted 13 episodes, but it had a huge impact on the industry because a lot of people who went on to be greats in the industry had their opportunity on that program. And this guy was brave. He was a brave, and he's such a talented actor. And he used to do a one-man performance of Paul Robeson, the great Paul Robeson, which we can mention him as well. It was a great talent. And so Avery Brooks is one of those unsung heroes in Hollywood, and who made a huge impact that a lot of people don't even know about. And I would definitely love to give him his props because I feel like a lot of people don't know his story. So he also, you may remember him from a movie called American History X.
Oh yeah.
He was in that film as well. So, and the big hit starring Mark Wahlberg, he was in that film as well.
Yep. See, I got a text from a friend of mine. He's not in the chat, but he's listening while he's doing his thing. But he texted me and asked me, "What about Blazing Saddles?" Okay, Kevin, let me just say this real quick. I'm sorry, Kevin, my buddy that's listening here. Blazing Saddles. I love that movie because I love that Mel Brooks practically pissed off so many people with that movie. I love what he did. I love what Mel Brooks does. I've always loved his work. I mean, he pisses off people. He's done it for a living, and he got a Lifetime Achievement Award for doing it. Mm-hmm. Blazing Saddles. Okay, there is a positive message in the movie. Mm-hmm. And yes, there is a lot of very, very dark humor in that film that makes fun of just like the idiocy behind racism. And I guess, oh God, okay, I'm getting another text about how people were afraid of him at first because he was black, and then they all grew to love him. I'm like, okay. So we're going like the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. You threw me off my points. That was literally the plot point of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. They wanted him gone. They made fun of him, and they all ended up loving him because they knew that they could rely on him because he saved the community. He was a misfit. And I know what Kevin is talking. I know what he was going to get to because the way in which that they not only use the N-word in that film, which I'm not praising it. Don't ever take that the wrong way. Mm-hmm. But also in the beginning, when you have like the redneck on top of the building, and he says, "Oh, look, the sheriff is a ding."
Right.
Oh, the sheriff is near. No, God, nabbit, the sheriff is a ding. Oh, the sheriff's on his way. No, and then the sheriff shows up, and that whole thing that's going on. That comes back to my point, though. It did the same thing that I think of. Well, actually, let me rephrase it. It did the polar opposite of the blaxploitation films. It didn't further any cause. It didn't do anything really for a cause other than the fact that you had Cleveland Little Bart, who did a fantastic job in his comedy. He was absolutely hysterical.
And he was a great talent, too.
Huh?
He was a great talent as well.
Oh no, I mean, his death was a loss for the like for the whole acting field. Like right there to me, like right next to Richard Pryor,
Right.
because they both played so well on film, and they both made fun of that whole. Oh, okay, I get. Okay, Kevin, I got what you're saying. Now I got another text from him. Okay, yes, they played against those very stereotypes. They broke through the stereotypes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I see. That's what he was getting at. Thank God, because I was losing my point because of you. Man. God, man, don't ask me to bring something up and keep texting me about it. Like,
and Richard Pryor was one of the writers too of the
yeah, but see, also like with Richard Pryor, like I like what Richard Pryor did. Like now, there's some movies with him, like The Toy, See No Evil, Hear No Evil, which I think is like one of my favorite movies with him and Gene Wilder.
Right.
I mean, the whole scene with Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder in the like that little like store when they get into a fist fight, and Gene Wilder's like holding Richard Pryor up so he can box the guy, and he's telling him how to like like where to throw the punch at and everything. But okay, yeah, I get what you were saying about the about Cleveland Little. Like, yeah, Mel Brooks did everything he could to break down those stereotypes because he was not so far from anti-Semitic that a lot of his humor made fun of like the whole racism or just like the stupidity behind it. That was the whole point of Blazing Saddles.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's Jewish, so I would think he's not anti-Semitic.
Well, I mean,
I hope he wouldn't be.
Well, look at him in what was it? Robin Hood Men in Tights. I mean,
yeah.
Rabbi Tuckman.
Who wants the circumcision? I take a thing, I put it in here, and poof, I snip the tip.
Yeah. And his son Max Brooks is he did World War Z.
Yeah,
and he's pretty cool too. His son, Max Brooks. So,
but you see, there's one thing I want to bring up here that because it caused so much controversy, and this is more recent. Because while we're looking at like the films of the past, and like Kinte, as you said, Eddie Murphy was pretty much like he was the straw that broke. Like he's the one that broke the ceiling basically for like modern roles in black films. Because right. you look at Eddie Murphy in The Golden Child or Coming to America, all those movies from like the 80s, like what he did.
He was on fire.
Yeah, he started something. And he also showed like the more charming side of like just his acting. Like look at him in Golden Child, like how he was like there was actually acting, there was more emotion, there was like seriousness, mixed with levity.
I want to chime in here real quick.
Go for it.
Because yes, Eddie Murphy deserves a lot of credit for what he's done, but I would like to add that I don't think he would be anywhere near those roles or being able to do what he did without getting a massive boost from the aforementioned Richard Pryor.
Oh no, I don't think so. I don't think so at all.
For sure. And then you go to Sidney Poitier. We didn't even mention Sidney Poitier.
Oh no, you're right.
Just what he was able to accomplish in his long storied career, and he's still alive, people. And he's got to be almost 90 years old. He was a fantastic actor, won the Oscar, and so I mean, it's like you stand on the shoulders of the ones that came before you, So you have Sidney Poitier, and Bill Cosby did 3 terrific films. They're kind of like sequels, but they're not really. They did Uptown Saturday Night.
Oh yeah,
Do It Again, and A Piece of the Action. If you have not seen those films, I know people have their issues with Bill Cosby. You watch a Woody Allen film, you can watch Bill Cosby. So
personal life to me, like granted, what Bill Cosby did was atrocious. It was horrible. Absolutely horrible. But even Bill Cosby, like we were talking about like black comedians earlier, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bill Cosby, what that man did with his comedy, He brought like that gentle dad, because his comedy was quite a bit of his comedy. If any of our listeners have not actually watched Bill Cosby at all, ever performing stand-up, it is so rarely standing up. A lot of his comedy, he's just sitting down in a recliner talking.
Right.
A lot of his comedy is like storytelling. That's mostly what. It's not like little one-line zinger jokes. It's actually like they're really funny and actually very charming stories.
Yeah, he was a great trailblazing talent, and but those 3 films are amazing, and that's where you get Biggie Smalls.
Yep.
Is from Let's Do It Again, and then I believe those films are getting remade with Kevin Hart as one of the leads of it. There's so many people that I know. Like tonight, I'm gonna be like, why didn't I mention this person or that person? We don't have to go to someone like Sinbad. Sinbad had a nice little run, and I ain't talking about the genie movie that may or may not exist. Right.
Oh no. You're talking about because they're saying he did 2. That's right.
The Mandela Effect movie or whatever, which is a creepy thing. But no, but I mean, like he helped a lot of people. People don't even realize Sinbad, and then you have and then now you have people like Jordan Peele nowadays.
And that's actually that was actually what I was going to bring up with the controversy.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, no, the year before last, after Us came out,
mm-hmm.
Okay, he said something online. No, I'm sorry, in an interview. He said something in an interview that lit a fire in everyone's asshole.
Right.
Like it pissed everyone off. And he says that he doesn't make movies with white people in the leads because he's seen those movies.
Right.
And people lost their minds over this. Like, oh, that's racism. What if we said that about black people? Like, well, you can't.
You can't. Yeah,
you can't. You absolutely cannot.
It's
like, how many American-made big-budget Hollywood films, or even like independent, but like with mass-release films, did you see a sympathetic and like a black lead man or woman, or a Hispanic man or woman, but for the sake of this being Black History Month, we'll go with a black man or woman, where you can actually identify with them or relate with them. Like in like Get Out pissed everybody off. Oh well, that's racist. Like, it's not racist, guys.
Right. Yeah, it's a false equivalence. It's comparing apples to oranges.
No, I got yelled at by somebody for telling. I got yelled at by a relative actually. And mind you, like Kinte, I don't know if you know, but my family is like it's a melting pot. Like of relatives of black, white people, Hispanic people. Like, I mean, it's so integrated. But the thing is that it was one of my white and more conservative family members that started going off on this racist, started going off on this rant about how Get Out was racist. Mm-hmm. Oh, Us. That's what he said about Us. That's racist. And I told him flat out, I was like, dude, put the card back in the deck.
Right.
Well, what card? Your race card. Put it away.
Right.
I don't have a race card, and that's the problem. Shut up. Like, you have no room to talk here. If the term doesn't apply to you on any kind of level, whether it's like jokingly or disrespectful, you have no cards to play, which means you have nothing to say. So let it be. Jordan Peele is a brilliant director. I was blown away by Get Out after him really only being a comedian for so damn long.
Yeah, I mean, it surprised the heck out of me that he, I didn't know what to think about the film going into it, and then it was so great. I was just very pleased with the film and how it came out and all of that. So kudos to him and what he's been doing ever since. Like, it's just awesome.
Yeah, like he seriously went from Keanu to Us. Like, it's just like the two films are night and day.
I know, right? That's so funny. Well, maybe he could blame Keegan for Keanu. And Keegan's been doing great too as an actor, So,
well, I mean, listen, you have one of that duo that has gone on to become this prolific director
right,
that can make these honestly very terrifying situations on film.
right.
Now, like, granted, there are flaws in like Get Out. I'm sorry, Us. There are flaws. Like, just as a film student, you see things like,
Right.
well, this is a giant gaping plot hole. How does she organize this with an entire country's worth of doubles? Like, I mean, it's like there are plot holes, but it doesn't make the film any less terrifying on different levels. But you have, on one hand, Jordan Peele that has gone on to do these things, and then you have Keegan, who managed to go to a correspondence dinner and be Barack Obama's anger. Oh God, what
anger double or something like that.
Yeah. Like,
yeah. What's funny though about I'm dating myself. When I saw Us in the theater, it settled something that I kind of had in my head. Like, did I dream that Hands Across America? Did that really happen? Like, it's like one of those events that you remember, and then you're like, "What, did that really happen?" And then they put it in the movie, and it was like, that shit did happen. Like, I wasn't dreaming that Hands Across America, that was the most lamest thing in the world. I'm dating myself. I don't know how old you guys are, but
I'm 38.
Okay, so you may remember it.
I remember learning of it shortly afterwards when I was like, because I was born in '82, November '82, and that happened in early. I think. Oh God, that was like early. Like, it was almost summertime. Was it summer? Summer of, let me see. Google. I think it was like March or June of May 2000 May 1986, May 25th, 1986.
Oh, so you were old. You were born just in time to see Ghostbusters.
My first movie was it was not Ghostbusters. I regretfully say it was not Ghostbusters. It was, in fact, and Josh, don't you dare use this against me. It was Back to the Future 2.
Okay.
It was Back to the Future 2 in a drive-in theater in Ocala, Florida, I believe.
Oh wow!
So,
hey, that wasn't bad. That wasn't a bad film. It wasn't needed, but it was. I get in trouble for saying that. It wasn't a needed film. But
listen, I've already heard I've already royally pissed off Josh one time, texting him, just giving him shit. So,
yeah.
In all fairness, I was picking apart his favorite franchise of all time,
and doing so poorly.
I think I had valid points, but let's agree to disagree there.
I bought that on Blu-ray a couple of months ago.
I bought it on Blu-ray through like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I haven't looked at it yet. I might have to fire that up this week.
See, Josh, if it makes you feel any better, buddy, I bought the trilogy of Back to the Future on Blu-ray, and I had the option to buy something with the word Ghostbusters on it, and I would have thrown it in the trash if I bought it. So,
the girly Ghostbuster.
Yep. It's got nothing to do with it being women. It just sucks.
Right.
So,
right.
Sorry for the 2016 Ghostbusters fans if you're listening, but we're all allowed to have bad taste in something. If you like that movie, there you go.
I don't know any women that like that movie. So.
No, I try to get Danielle to watch it.
Uh-huh.
I lost a bet. I had to go see the movie on a lost bet. I walked in, sat down, saw the opening sequence, walked right back. I didn't pay, mind you. I just walked right. I'm not going to pay to go see that movie. I walked right past the usher. The friend of mine I lost a bet with goes back to the theater with me and sits down with me. Now I've got to watch this whole damn film. And he's busting out laughing the whole film. I don't know what he's laughing at because I just must have missed every joke. I come out. I'm like, what were you laughing at? I says, what do you mean? It's like, what in the movie was so funny? He's like, oh, I don't know. I wasn't watching the movie. I was looking at your face the whole time.
Oh my god!
It was like I thought that you were going to kill everyone in the theater. I'm like, nope. Thought about snapping my own neck a few times. I was like, oh, I could see that look.
Just as a side thing, it doesn't necessarily go with the topic, but
No.
today, but it is about film. I just wonder what is you guys' best film going experience that you can think of? What I mean is not necessarily just the greatest film you saw in the theater, but where it just was a great time at the cinema, and all of that.
Josh, I'll let you go first.
Well, you know what? It's gonna be when I saw Ace Ventura: Pet Detective in theaters. Not that it was the greatest of movies, especially rewatching it later. It's got a lot of cringe-worthy moments. Even then, there were some cringe-worthy moments, but I was young, so I will say that. But what I do remember is sitting there and almost quite literally falling out of my seat because I was just laughing so hard. And when it comes to, I've seen hundreds and hundreds of movies, at the theater. But when it comes to, what stands out, it's me holding on to my armrest laughing as Jim Carrey does this thing in Ace Ventura: Pet Detective.
No.
What about you, Brandon?
I'll list mine real quick. I do want to acknowledge we have another person in the Facebook chat. Israel says Back to the Future 3 had that weird kid pointing to his crotch. Like,
yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's okay. That's true. And then he says Jackass, which honestly, Jackass, I couldn't stop laughing the whole movie. It's not mine, but mine, it will still be Ghostbusters, but for a different reason. It will be because of the fact that I did not see Ghostbusters in theaters until I was already an adult. Until I was already, I think in my early 30s. This is the first time I ever saw the original 1984 masterpiece. That is the Orson, it's like, it is like an Orson Welles style event for me. And it is Harold Ramis's Golden Goose to me. But it's
and it holds up.
Yeah, and the humor is still, seeing that, because I've already seen the movie hundreds and hundreds of times at that point. I can recite the whole movie start to finish. It's my all-time favorite. It's my go-to for everything. It's just a bad day. Ghostbusters. Well, I'll watch it again. Funny.
And to tie it into the topic, Eddie Murphy. They wanted Eddie Murphy to star in it, and he did Beverly Hills Cop instead. So. Yep.
And to add to the topic, with Ernie Hudson taking the mantle of Winston Zeddemore, he wanted to play Winston Zeddemore in the cartoon, but they didn't think that he sounded enough like Winston from the movie. Explain that. But so it went to Arsenio Hall instead. And then I think to somebody else after Arsenio Hall left the show. But it was special to me because a friend of mine surprised me with it for my birthday. It was at Tinseltown in Jacksonville, and so like Tinseltown Cinemark, they have these the old school movies they bring back into, so they re-release them into the cinemas for like a brief 2 to 3 day showing. So he got me a ticket. We were working together in an office. And he was like, "Hey, we're not working anymore. We're going to go see a movie." I was like, "What movie?" It's like, "It's a surprise. Shut up and stop asking. Happy birthday." Okay. So we're driving, and then he puts on the Ghostbusters song, and I damn near started crying.
Aw.
I'm like, "We're going to go see Ghostbusters in the theater."
That's cool.
So he hands me this Ghostbusters T-shirt. I'm like, "I'll put this on right now." I'm like, "All right." We pull up into the theater, and when he asked the girl at the ticket booth, 2 adults for Ghostbusters, I damn near started crying again. So then we actually go in, we sit, buys me my snacky snacks. We go in, we sit in our little section in the front, and when it just comes on and you see the exterior shot of the New York Library there, like my jaw just dropped. And then when I saw, like, when I heard, like, when that ghost scares her, she starts screaming. You hear like Ray Parker Jr.'s like theme song, like, you hear like the drum beat, and then you just like the ghost formation of the logo. I would imagine that was, to me, like it would be for any Star Wars fan that was born in like 82, that was too young to see any of them in theaters, but was able to go see them when they were re-released in the 90s.
Right.
This was my first experience ever seeing Star Wars in theaters, basically.
You know, it's interesting. Me and Josh had a moment like that where I surprised them with the re-release of Debbie Does Dallas.
Oh, okay.
I cried too.
He cried. I get to see this in the theaters. He was very excited.
I'm such a baby. I'm getting teary-eyed just remembering seeing Ghostbusters in theaters for the first time. I've seen it like twice since then.
Right.
But that first time was probably the most special experience in my life. I could have a baby one day, and that my kid would be like, or someone would ask me, like, expect me to say my son, be like, oh, well, having him, like, first time you ever held your first child is like the most important and most memorable experience in your life. It's like, I don't know. I did see Ghostbusters in theaters when I was an adult. Kind of close together there, man.
Well, I'll say mine real quick. It was when I saw Jurassic Park when it originally came out. Had no idea what I was really about to see, and just was blown away. Like, I remember just because I don't know if you remember when that film came out, they didn't put a lot. They held back what most of everything looked like and everything. So when you saw it first on the screen, it was like, what the heck, and that movie's a dang near flawless film.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a terrific film. I mean, I got a projection unit, and that was like the first film I watched was Jurassic Park. I wanted to see it again on the big screen. I know it was Jaws, then Jurassic Park.
Well, you see, Jurassic. There's a big difference between trailers now and trailers back then. Because remember, like when Batman came out in 1989, people were buying tickets just to go get a glimpse of the trailer.
Right.
Like, I mean, so Jurassic Park, it was no different. It's like, because Batman, you didn't even really get much of a TV spot for Batman. It was just like, that was a big deal. First big superhero film since Superman. So with Jurassic Park, though, they did this brilliant marketing strategy, which filmmakers need to start using it. Studios need to start using the strategy again. Stop showing so damn much in the trailers. Because if you watch the right trailer, you can piece together the whole damn movie. Now, you don't, like Chucky did that, like Child's Play, the remake did that. You saw the whole movie.
And to tie it back to the topic, Samuel L. Jackson, who was one of the great actors of all time, was in that film. And then they asked him in the interview when before Jurassic World came out, and he said he wanted to be in the Jurassic World. And then the person interviewing him was like, "But you died in," spoiler alert, in Jurassic Park. He said, "We don't know if he died. We just saw his arm. I could be in there with one arm."
Oh yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like they wrote out in the script. In the script, they had his death scene written out.
Right.
In the storyboarding, he had a death scene written out.
Right.
In the movie, I don't think they ever even filmed it.
No, they didn't. Because of the weather.
No, that's right. So they just like film Laura Dern scenes running and all. Like they did what they could. But yeah, it's like, so they never filmed it. So he's right. He's absolutely right. They could bring back Jeff Goldblum. They could bring back Sam Neill. They could bring back Laura Dern, and they could.
They are.
I know. But that's what I'm saying. Like, and then they definitely, damn sure, can bring back Samuel L. Jackson.
Right. That would be funny as hell if he's like one armed, and he's that would be funny. And because remember, he was smoking cigarettes like the whole movie, and he's like the one arm he didn't. He's smoking a cigarette, of course. But Samuel L. Jackson, terrific actor, just wonderful talent, been in some of the biggest films. He believes that none of his characters have actually died. Even the Deep Blue Sea, he says.
That's kind of hard to like Deep Blue Sea. He definitely he either suffered a lot of blood loss if he was let go, or he drowned, or he was just chopped in half. Well, no. I thought they did pull him in. I thought they did rip him in half underwater.
Yeah, but he said something about, hey, he could have been a lot. He says Mace Windu didn't die.
Could you imagine though if Samuel L. Jackson comes back in Jurassic Park? Surprise, motherfuckers!
That would be funny.
That's two.
Okay, yeah. You know what? Then I already broke the rule. I forgot I said fuck earlier, and there's 3. The thing is that have him come back in. It's like, oh, we thought you died. Like, Dad, I just lost an arm. But he's got to shout when he says this. Like,
oh my god, that'd be.
Go back to Dave Chappelle. It's like, why are you shouting? It's like, ain't you ever seen my movie? It's just the way I talk.
Yeah, hilarious. The Sam Jackson beer?
Yeah, I'll have a Sam Jackson.
That is funny. And he loves that sketch too, Samuel Jackson.
I would love to see Samuel L. Jackson, at least his character mentioned in a future Jurassic Park, where someone's like, yes, we have to remember Ray Arnold, who passed away. And someone's like, yeah, and the original Jurassic Park. He's like, no, last year it was lung cancer.
That'd be horrible.
That's funny.
I mean, it'd be funny as shit, but it'd be horrible as hell.
That is funny. Yeah. Oh man, that would be a good one. Yeah. Yeah. That's funny. Man.
Oh Christ. No, but I mean, it's like, but getting back on topic of things, like, and that's. There's so many situations, like there's so many movies, and like, okay, Kinte, you brought up Spike Lee earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Spike Lee, he has done a lot for the Black community through his films alone,
right.
Especially like Black crew members and everything. He's known for working with crews that he's worked with before. He's known to recycle crews that he trusts,
right?
And a lot of them are like, and he's also known to bring on people in the Black community that will come in and do stuff. You have someone like Denzel Washington, and it was only really brought out during the speech made by Chadwick Boseman, like when he was talking about how Denzel Washington paid for his college,
right?
And he just like kept telling he says like, well, thank you for everything. He's like, they showed up I think at the Black Panther premiere, and he's like, oh my God, you came. He's like, well, I came. You owe me money.
Yeah, that was funny.
But you have these actors in that specific community that very, very viciously look out for each other in such a loyal way. That, I mean, it's just like, it's something that you see it, but you don't see it as much in the white film community. To an extent, I guess, kind of again with certain small circles. But it's like this entire community has, they have each other's backs, which is great to see. And it's also like, as of late, they're making a much bigger, voice for themselves by making much more quality projects. I mean, oh my God, like, what was it? It's not exactly recent, but Waiting to Exhale.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's face it, Homegirl can be in anything at all, and I'm just like, I'm enthralled with it.
Mm-hmm. Directed by Forrest Whitaker.
Yep.
Yeah, I believe that was his directorial debut.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
So that film had the Whitaker eye?
No, it wasn't his direct. It was his second film because he did a movie called Strapped. That was a great movie. That was his directorial debut.
Oh wow, yeah, you're right.
And no one heard it.
Yeah.
No, but it's like, I mean, but like Waiting to Exhale was like, you have these movies like come out. They show like these problems, like these relationships and everything. I mean, what was it? What was it? God, Set It Off about the bank robbing women.
Right.
Yeah.
Even then, like granted, like they're the criminals in the movie, but they're not the antagonists in the movie.
Right.
Like they have very real problems, like very serious problems. With Jada Pinkett Smith with her relationship with her with the guy she's seeing, who's also pretty much like
her entanglement.
Yeah, exactly. Like her entanglement. Oh, you're good.
I want to throw a name out there. I'm going to throw a name out there that I don't think gets nearly enough recognition for the things that he's done just in general, and that's Keenan Ivory Wayans.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
No.
I'm glad you said that. He's helped so many people in the industry and done great work himself. So yeah, I mean, going back to Hollywood Shuffle and I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker, and of course,
Don't Be a Menace.
Don't Be a Menace, but Living Color. I had a brain fart.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, in Living Color. Oh my God, how could I not even think about that one?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, In Living Color launched Jennifer Lopez, Jim Carrey, like Marlon and Marlon, Damon, like Sean, like all the Wayans brothers.
Jamie Foxx.
Huh?
Jamie Foxx.
Oh yeah, well yeah. No. You see, Jamie Foxx will crack me up if you look at his films now, and you go back to when he was that really ugly woman that was like all horned up. I'm gonna rock your world. Like I mean,
Wanda.
that's it. So it's like if I see Jamie Foxx like in like serious roles, I'm like, yeah, you're a badass. You may kick my ass, but remember, you used to chase after men and say you're going to rock their world, buddy.
Yeah.
I just
remember
don't
your
think
roots.
I don't think he gets his place, on the pedestal that I feel he deserves for what he's done. He often, to me, seems overlooked when it comes to contributors to the modern fabric of the entertainment industry.
See, I would actually look at Keenan Ivory Wayans as the modern, like the more recent equivalent to Mel Brooks' talents. With what he did in because I mean, mind you, Mel Brooks, before he did film, he was writing and I think also directing for Get Smart.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you have Keenan Ivory Wayans who like going all the way back to like in Living Color, I'm Going to Get You, Sucker, and all that stuff. I mean, like he's another one that did a whole lot, but he brought a lot of attention to
Other people.
God. Yeah, but the way I'm thinking about it is like even in his films, I don't want to say he makes fun of the thought of disparities. So it's not that he makes fun of it, but he pokes the humor at the absolute ideals that people have as far as like, I guess, God, what's the word I'm looking for? The stereotypes.
Mm-hmm.
Like he makes he constantly makes fun of them. But I mean that's another one with his with like him and having Marlon and Shawn Wayans in that movie White Chicks. That was one that like lit up. God, started so much shit.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Like, oh my God, the controversy. It was like that controversy was comparable to the controversy that Kevin Smith started when he came out with Dogma a few years earlier.
Right.
Like White Chicks was not only picketed, but it was picked apart. It was strongly protested. It was the people were trying to shut it down before it was even released because they were so offended by it. Like, guys, like,
and who is this Kevin Smith you talk about?
who is my? How the hell dare you, sir?
Oh my God, Kevin Smith.
Oh man.
Oh wait, he did the movie Bag Boys.
Kevin Smith?
Yeah, it was called Bag Boys. Grocery store workers.
Bag Boys from New Jersey.
Bag Boys from New Jersey.
Right, chasing Philip. Right.
Well, don't forget about Burger Flipper Boys. The sequel to Bag Boys.
Right.
So.
it was chasing Susie, right?
And now he's coming out with middle-aged Bag Boys. So.
No, I know the great Kevin Smith.
No, but but the point being is with Keenan Ivory Wayans, he pokes so much fun at not his culture, but the way in which his culture is viewed.
Right.
In all, damn near all of his films, and that's what I'm saying. I think he's very much comparable to Mel Brooks in his style and just his impact on his own culture, because Mel Brooks, a lot of his films where he's used as Schwartz, I mean, it was very Jewish centric in all of his films,
right?
So where he he poked fun at a lot of things in his own culture, but he did it in a way that was loving and actually like, adored by people that like might have even had some level of anti-Semitic feelings or thoughts.
Right.
And Ken Ivor Wayans, he opened a few doors towards realizations, but he also made fun of things like, where, what was it? I think Scary Movie 2.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how many horror films have you seen where there's like a black character like, oh, this guy's gonna be around for a long time, and then gone, first person dead. Like Scary Movie 2, like, okay, guys, split up. Hold up, when you guys say split up, whenever you guys say split up, it's always the black people that die first. Like, no, you're right. You, come with me. You guys, like, and they're sitting there pounding like, oh, we're gonna die, man. But
we have to mention, if we're going to talk about Scary Movie and black people, is Ice Cube's classic film Anaconda.
Oh God, yeah. Well,
oh my God, I rewatched that like sometime last year. It still is. It's actually worse than when I saw it in the theater. So,
yeah, I saw it when I was 13. I'll tell you right now, man. It is when you're when you're a kid watching a movie like that, or like a teenager or whatever watching that kind of a movie, you're like, oh, this is actually pretty good. Now, the effects in Anaconda aged about as well as the effects in Spawn did.
Oh, geez.
Like
Michael Jai White.
Yep, didn't age very well at all.
Now, I was 15 when that came out, and I did not think that it was cool. It was just a monster flick. You're a teenager, and you're like, yeah, it's a monster flick. But then even that couldn't save me. It couldn't lead me to enjoy it. All the way up to Jon Voight's awesome, and he says that term sarcastically, wink at the end there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that movie it was pretty atrocious.
Well, see, but if we are going to talk about horror films, there's one name that I want to mention. Something that was
Cannibal Holocaust.
Hard to watch. Something that was hard to watch when I was first saw it, like when I was in middle school. Dwayne Jones in Night of the Living Dead.
Oh yeah.
He was one of the two last survivors in the movie.
Right.
He gets to everything. He fights off zombies. He's locked himself in the basement and everything else, and comes out. It's safe. And this moment that, because I didn't see this movie until I didn't actually see the original in its entirety until I was about maybe 14 or 15 years old. He comes out of the basement. The townspeople are killing the zombies. Like, they're all shooting them. He just comes to. I think he came to the door and opened the door, or he looked out the window. Whatever. Well, I think he opened the door, and instead of shouting out to him, he was instantly just shot right between the eyes, killed. This man survived the entire thing, and I remember reading the George A. Romero saying that ending was intentional, as was his being one of the last survivors. Like, that was his way of, and even Night of the Living Dead, with having a black male lead playing opposite of a white woman, that pissed off a lot of people too. Because that came out in 1968. So we're still fresh from going through the, as we were talking about earlier, the rapidly changing country at that point in time. So Night of the Living Dead. It honestly pissed off a lot of people. How dare you have this black man star opposite of this beautiful white woman? It was this big controversial thing with him and Judith O'Shea, O'Shea,
yeah,
whatever her name was. But
what about this one?
We gotta clear the snakes out of the cockpit.
Yeah, clear the snakes out of the cockpit.
Oh my God.
Enough is enough. I have had it with these monkey fighting snakes on this monkey Friday plane. Everybody strap in.
Wait, what did he say?
Windows.
What were the filler words that they used?
Monkey fighting.
Enough is
Monkey
enough.
fighting.
I have had it with these monkey fighting snakes on this Monday to Friday plane. Everybody's
Monday through Friday plane. You have to wonder how much the person gets paid to write those, insert words. Because there's a line in not we're talking about black film history, but this is not black film history. I'm going to go with The Great Outdoors.
Oh yeah.
There's a scene where the two boys are fighting. There's a scene where the two boys are fighting in the back of the station wagon, and the one brother's like, "Blow it out your ass." The other brother's like, "Blow it out your ass." And it's like the one was like, "No one's going to blow anything out of their ass." It's like whatever. Like now in the TV version, I remember this very well because it just first off, ass is one syllable, right?
Right.
And it's a very smooth formation of your lips. It's just like mouth opens a little bit and then it closes. You said ass. Now in the TV version, the lips didn't sync up because instead of ass, they said kazoo. I'm looking at this like there's so many words that they could have used to make it look like they said that word, but they went with like not a one syllable word, but like a two syllable word. So now it looks like I feel like I'm watching like an American dubbed, like an English dubbed Chinese film, because it doesn't match up. But kazoo.
Blow it out your kazoo.
Yeah. Oh God, I really need to get a job. I guess now it's kind of like probably an obsolete job, formatting a TV show like a rated R movie for TV, at the rate that people are going digital these days. But
fun fact, though, The Great
Monkey
Outdoors
fighting
is
snakes.
on the lineup for Cinema du Fromage.
Oh, nice.
It is, yes.
But what was it?
We'll be dissecting that very soon.
Monkey fighting snakes on this Monday through Friday plane.
Hilarious. It's what's as good as that or close to it is the Scarface. The line in the original is it's something like this city's like a virgin waiting to get effed,
Yeah.
And then but the clean version is this city's like a chicken waiting to get plucked.
Yeah.
At least it has some similar context.
Oh God.
Oh man, that's so funny.
Oh God.
Actually, that should have been the line in the movie. That's even better. Yeah, who would say that?
Oh my God.
Chicken waiting to get plucked. Because chickens wait to get plucked.
To bring us back around here, a little recap. We've basically noted that, there's been a long, tough road as far as the history, the film industry, and as it relates to black entertainers. And here's a news flash. And some of you might need to hold on to those pearls because it's going to come as a surprise to find out that while things have improved over the last, we'll say, few decades, couple of decades, it's still kind of an uphill battle when it comes to these issues in modern Hollywood. That's right, modern Hollywood, as in Hollywood of today. After all, the lion's share of films released are white starring, white written, white directed, and basically the percentages aren't where they should be considering how long this has been going on, how long Hollywood itself has said, we're improving. It's like, but are you? So, do you think that there will be any drastic increases or improvements when it comes to not only creating but marketing films from black actors and black directors? Or do you think it's going to be the minimal increases that we've seen so far?
Me personally, I don't expect much. I mean, I feel like you got to do like Bollywood. You know, think about Bollywood, right? They couldn't get work in Hollywood, so they said we created Bollywood, and now Hollywood comes to Bollywood. Same thing with China. You know, China outdid the U.S. box office a couple of years ago, and then you have Nollywood in Nigeria. So, you know, I think that's really the way to go. And then you can control your own images, and you can, instead of waiting for a green light, you can be the green light. And I believe that if you're going to wait for Hollywood to empower you, it's not going to happen.
Brandon?
I think it could, but the thing is that there are too many people that are in the spotlight right now that I don't think are ready for that to happen. A lot of the films that are coming out that are worth watching, honestly, and that are from the Black community, are pretty much going straight to streaming. And this is even before COVID hit, before the lockdowns and everything else. And a lot of the ones that are gaining a lot of momentum are not Black films, or like, you know, they're not films that have like Black actors. A lot of those films, unfortunately, don't really make the money in the box office. They make it in sales of DVDs or whatever else. I mean, look at Tyler Perry's films. I mean, his films are, I'm sorry, like as of late, laughable. Like they've gotten really bad. But he's had some really beautiful films that he's made. They did okay in the box office, but a lot of the attention towards them comes either towards the end of their run, or like maybe they get like the spike at the beginning, but then they die down pretty quickly. I think it'll get to that point, but I think that people need to stop doing everything they can to keep power over an industry. Times change, but you have to evolve. The reason why the industry is so stale right now, while we're having these remakes that are constantly being just like puked out, non-stop remakes of everything. Christ, they're doing a they just did a remake of they're doing a remake rather of a movie. I forget which one that came out like. Oh, that's right, Paranormal Activity. They're doing a remake of that.
Get out of here! It just came out like what, 10 years ago? If that.
But that's what I'm saying. It's not that old of a film. At least Chris Rock is doing. Well, it was supposed to have already been released, which is Spiral. Yeah. The like, and it's supposed to be a sequel though to Saw. It's not supposed to be like a complete reboot. I don't think. I think it's supposed to be a sequel to it, like a distant sequel to it, or take place during that time frame, whatever the deal is. But still, he's doing it within respect of that particular franchise. But a lot of these movies, my point is, a lot of these movies that are coming out, they're just unoriginal. If they're not reboots, they're unoriginal. Right. And it's because of the fact that there are original stories to be told and shared, and they are coming out, but they're coming out to streaming services. They're coming out to Netflix. They're going out to Amazon Prime. They're going out to Hulu, HBO Max. And you have these really great stories that for some reason Hollywood just doesn't think that they'll make any, and they don't think they'll make any return in box office on. So I think that once they start opening their mindsets up a little bit, because mind you, Hollywood is still run by a bunch of old crusty old white guys.
Right.
I mean, it really is. For crying out loud, Tyler Perry, like, you know, he's making what he's doing because he started his own studio.
Right.
You know, I mean, I think Tyler Perry, as much as I think his work is mediocre at best, I compare him to the other big studios in the same way that I would compare what's the name of the animator that made An American Tail? He made Thumbelina.
Ralph Bakshi?
Huh?
Wait, was it Ralph Bakshi?
God, I can't remember. I can't think of his name. Like, what was it?
5-0 Goes West.
Let me see. Danielle introduced me to the guy's actual name. He was an animator that worked for Disney.
Don Bluth.
That's it. I think that Tyler Perry is the Don Bluth to the rest of the film industry. And I think Jordan Peele is right behind him. And I think Jordan Peele will probably actually be much more successful than Tyler Perry ever will. Excuse me, I'm sorry, guys. But the thing is that with Don Bluth, he gave Disney a run for its money. He damn near, he was boxing Disney with his own projects. Ferngully, Thumbelina, Anastasia. He scared the hell out of them. I forget which movie he made, but one of his movies.
He's still alive too, by the way.
Yeah, but one of his movies actually outdid a Disney film in the box office.
He's related to Mitt Romney. They're like cousins or something.
Well, the thing is, my point is that with Tyler Perry with his studios, he is doing the same thing to all these major studios and distributors, because I think he also distributes his own stuff too. Mm-hmm. If he doesn't distribute, I think he goes to an independent distributor, but he still gets that distribution out there. Excuse me. So I think if more stuff like that continues to happen, and if he can actually start putting out more quality stuff, because let's face it, that movie that was released to Netflix last year, where there's a guy eating and drinking air in the background. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's called Fatal. No, it's called. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. I mean, it's an example. To be fair, though, I eat air all the time. So,
but you don't do it in a very, very high, but in a decent sized budget production. Well in view of the camera, within 2 feet behind the main actor in full view.
Hey, look, when I ate at Josh's house, that's what he served me. Okay, it was air pie and wind custard.
Listen, Josh. We're grown men, Josh. Okay, we need more sustenance than that. Okay, your kids will be fine. Feed them air.
This is Josh to his kids. Daddy, I'm hungry. You know the cure for hunger? Sleep.
There you go. My stomach hurts. Well, it wouldn't hurt if you were sleeping, honey. Can I have some of that sandwich? What goes great with this sandwich, honey? What? Silence.
Silence.
And sleep. No, but the point I'm trying to get to, that I'm being a little long-winded with here. I'm sorry for that. I think there is a very bright future for more positive examples of films that paint the Black community in a much more positive light, that can actually be filled with characters that you can relate to, despite racial barriers. But people, for the last, not to get political here, for the last 4 years, there has been a very, 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 very angry country. I don't care who you vote for, what you do with your vote. I don't care. But it's no secret that we have been the most separated as a society in the last 4 years. And dare I say, even the 8 years before that, we've been separated. And it's not just because of leaders, it's because people place too much faith in politicians and they listen to what happens. If there's not faith in politicians, it's blind hatred towards a politician. But people have become so political that they become more, I guess, self-involved with their own mindsets, with their own beliefs and everything else, and they mistake beliefs for observations. If people can put that shit aside and just actually get back to some sense of where we were, even 15 years ago,
right?
We were actually moving forward. Now, we may have had a dumbass in the office then too, but the thing is that we still were nowhere near as hateful as we are now as a society. It's like we've regressed a little bit.
Yeah.
So if we can get that back on track, I think there's a very bright future for it. But people need to stop screaming racism where there is none. Jordan Peele doesn't want to make a movie with white leads. I don't take any offense to it whatsoever. Go him. Tell your stories. I like his stories.
All right.
Get Out was very powerful, and it was absolutely horrifying. I mean, these people are having their fucking brains tampered with. Yep, there's number 4. Sorry, Josh.
And also, if gay filmmakers want to make movies about gay people, or if women want to make movies about women. I mean, it's fine. It should be a space for all of that.
Well, it's like I mentioned the film Cuties earlier.
Mm-hmm.
That was written and directed by a black French film. I think she's French filmmaker.
Mm-hmm. I think she's Nigerian French or something.
Okay, no, I think you're right. Because I think she was raised in like both areas, right? Something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
But whatever the case may be, it was actually a powerful film. I remember, Josh. I'm sure you remember this. I posted a question in this movie group that Josh and I are in, and my question was very simple. Without having seen the movie because it wasn't released yet, I simply asked the marketing for this film. There's no question, it was the most horrific marketing for any film I've ever seen.
Right.
The trailer did no justice for the film. And the poster, oh God.
I would say that film probably worked better as a documentary than, because then when you if you're doing a commentary on something as touchy as exploitation of little girls, and then you got to kind of recreate it to get your point across. It kind of, then you're walking that line of that's like, I'm saying, you know what? I want to do something on pimping, like my issues on pimping. So I'm going to pimp some women to show you, like, like how wrong it is.
Exactly.
Kind of weird thing. Yeah.
But it's like with that movie, like when I just simply asked about the marketing, because I mentioned like there are movies in the past that you see a trailer for the movie, and then you see the movie, and the movie is nothing at all like the trailer. And the best example I can think about really odd marketing for a film is Sorry to Bother You.
Right.
Listen, Kinte, Josh, me and Danielle sat down. We watched this movie.
Mm-hmm.
The whole movie, it started off the way that you saw in the trailer. It was funny, and when Danny Glover broke out the whole you gotta talk like a white person thing, he does that voice. Like, I lost my shit, man. I couldn't stop laughing.
Bizarre.
And like the way it showed him I thought it was brilliant cinematography and editing for the first half of the film. And then you see these guys turning into horses with horse sticks and everything else. Like, what the hell is happening?
That was strange. Yeah.
Like, this was not in the trailer.
The guy who did it is Boots Riley. He's a terrific rapper. I've been a fan of. He has a group called The Coup, which is great. And oddly enough, that whole change your voice thing, he did it in one of his songs that came out in '94. So I guess that was an idea that he had, going way back. Yeah.
Well, it's like,
yeah.
Well, it's like, and the thing is like, I know this is a film that was directed. Like, I was excited because, like, Boots Riley, I wasn't familiar with his music.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that you had Danny Glover in it, you had Lakeith Stanfield, you had Tessa Thompson, like, you had a bunch of actors that like I really liked. On top of it being one of the producers being Forrest Whitaker, like, well, that's awesome. But what my whole point was, this director, like, sorry to bother you, like, got sidetracked here, was nothing like the trailer that I saw.
Mm-hmm.
The whole, like, just movie, just, whatever. So Cuties, I didn't look at that as like as anything exploiting of these children whatsoever. Like, I get where people say that, but there are people that were like, leaving reviews for this. It's like, oh, well, there is a bare breast of a 12-year-old girl in this movie. I'm like, that wasn't in any part of the movie. Oh, the girl's masturbating or they're watching lesbian porn and they start like that. That didn't happen in the movie either. Like, I get what it is. You guys saw a poster. The movie could have come out in a worse year, because let's face it, last year when it came out, child sex trafficking was a hot topic. Mm-hmm. It has been for the last 2 years. So people have been like jumping on this train of being like, whether they believe it or not, they just want to like look really good or like look like they're part of the, I guess, society, like thumb on the pulse of society. So they're attacking this because child sex trafficking was a big concern and fear. I'm aware that it does happen, but this movie came out like with a poster that's the title is "Cuties" because, of course, the American translation of the French word. But with them in these poses, which I'm like, okay, that you guys could have done something a little different with this, because if the original poster that the filmmaker had was nowhere near as exploitative of these children. I think the poster itself was the most exploitative thing for this film. And that is where my point is going, is the fact that I think that because a bunch of producers saw this, they want to try to get it like even more marketable. So they want to like up the ante. What is there isn't good enough. We have to find some way to really get like some zing on this thing. If that, you get what I'm saying? Make this something that people are going to want to see. You leave a highly provocative poster like what came out, which the replacement was much better that they used in lieu of it, because it's just like a close up of the girl's face staring provocatively at the camera. People just jumped on the train of bashing this movie without even seeing anything about it.
Wow.
People like
I didn't see the movie, and I really have no desire to.
And that's fine. I mean, it's like, see, I watched it, Josh, myself, and I think Sue watched it because it was a talking point for the show.
Right. I don't know if I could have sat. Honestly, I don't know if I could sat through it.
No, don't go. No, Kinte, don't get me wrong. It is not an easy movie to sit through. There are times where I was just like, oh, I had to turn away from the screen for a second. But I look at it as like the modern day version of Kids without the sex.
Oh, I remember Kids. Wow, you digging in the crates.
But to be fair, though, I mean, and granted, the guy that wrote and directed Kids, the guy's batshit crazy. I mean, he's like the next films that he wrote, like that's the only one he's ever made that actually really gave him any major notoriety. But with Cuties, though, like it's I look at it as like this generation's version of Kids, but I look at it as this is what can happen if when kids turn a certain age, they start like exploring how they feel about themselves as people versus the world around them, and what the effect of technology can be for them. Because Josh, if I remember right, like correct me if I'm wrong, buddy, I think like the technology was like a big part of the movie, right?
Yeah, and
like, what was available for them to
see?
A
stolen cell phone.
Yeah. So it's like that. Like these girls just want to dance. So it's not like they wanted to twerk. That was never their thing. They weren't actively like trying to twerk. They just wanted to be dancers. But they saw what really caught the attention of, like I guess the spotlight, if that makes sense.
They started.
So they tried
up music videos.
Yeah, and so they decided to
moves.
Yeah, they decided to recreate these music videos. That is where it started getting really hard for me to watch.
Yeah.
Not because I felt like it was exploiting the children. I think that this is a movie that this director was not ready to tell. And if she had actually done another movie before this, because I think she single-handedly just destroyed her career with this movie. Yeah. But for a woman, for a black woman, showing this movie, discussing about something that she said she herself actually kind of dealt with growing up. And I think, you're right. It would actually probably work much better as a documentary. It would have done great as a documentary because this is a very real thing. But the way it was told, at times I don't even think she knew what the movie was supposed to be. Yeah. But she is so damn blacklisted right now because of this movie. It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it also stems from a whole lot of people. I've seen so much hate, and a lot of the hate didn't come from women. It came from white dudes. Remember, Josh? Like, I mean, all the people are throwing me, calling me all kinds of names, like a pedophile and everything else. I didn't even see the movie. I was asking about the marketing. They were all white men.
Yeah, the general female perspective has been pretty empathetic, understanding of what it's like to grow up with those kinds of influences telling you what you're supposed to be, as a sexy female.
Yeah. But it's like, but the thing is that also that movie dealt very strongly with, and because I mean this goes towards the whole Black History Month and Black cinema and everything else. It goes very much with a Black girl's experience in a country she's not familiar with, dealing with her own personal conservative culture that like her mother brought with her from Nigeria, or I forget what, I think it was Nigeria.
Yeah.
Brought with them to France from Nigeria, and now she's trying to assimilate to this culture. So you see this culture she grew up with versus this culture she's introduced to, which is a vastly different world. So it's her desperation to fit into it. So I mean, this is another story that I thought was a powerful message, at least on that level, if anything. But all that came away from it was the poster, and that's it.
That's an interesting observation, especially making the connection to the history of how do you put it, Black representation in films and television, right?
Yeah.
Because as we've mentioned before, the studios, the networks, it's vastly old white dudes. That's just a simple state of fact.
That's just the way it is.
And over the years, hell, since day one of television and film and the representation, it has always been a "this is how you should act" kind of thing. Whether it is some white filmmaker saying, "Okay, I want these people to be more docile. I want them to be more this, more that, whatever the case may be." That it kind of set a tone for what is expected. Or much later on, when the industry, not as a whole, but at least a small section of it, was being taken back, and the filmmakers were saying, "No, that's not who we are. This is who we are." In somewhat of a rebellious way, thumbing a nose, biting a finger, if you will, to the film industry, saying, "This is not it. This is not the representation. This is not the expectation that you need to expect anymore." And unfortunately, you still see examples to this day of certain characters of color behaving in a way that maybe doesn't represent themselves as the way it is realistic. I guess. Trying to figure out words here.
My thing is this: is that I don't think, as being a Black person in America who watches television and film, we don't expect every Black person to be treated as saints or whatnot, because that wouldn't be real or realistic. Right. Humans are are complicated people. But what we want to do is we want to be a caricature. We don't want to be some sort of something that's denigrated. If we're gonna talk about somebody on the other side of the law, then let it be a three-dimensional characterization of it. And then also we want balance. We don't want everything to be in that same vein. We want to, we want to see Black people in different positions. We want to see as the hero, as the villain, as the doctor, and then sometimes it just not be Black people and stuff where it's not necessarily race specific, where they're just a guy. Like there was a show called 24 where the president ended up being Black, and his race was never a part of the storyline. Well, actually, in the first season, he was a senator running for president, and they're trying to kill him. So at first I'm thinking, is they trying to kill him because he's a brother? This is pre-Obama. But no, it had nothing to do with that. It was, and it never was brought up that he was black. And I always say that actually helped Obama because actually, if you could draw parallels between that character and Obama, the character was both from Illinois as well as Obama. They both played basketball, it was people loved him as the president on the show. I don't know if you guys ever saw the show, but Dennis Haysbert, who played him, was amazing. And and it wasn't, it was never brought up that he was the black president or he's going to be a black president. It was that he was the president of the United States, and he was a damn good one. And he was very brave, and he was very, he had a lot of morals, and, he was just a great character. And I think that's how you start chipping away at some of this stuff, is to start showing people of color, people of, different genders, as just regular everyday people, and stop making it racialized or genderized. Just people are people, man.
Well, and that's it. Like, I mean, there's all right, like the series that Josh and I are working on. I've put it up a few times here, but Bad Agent, or even like some of the short films I've worked on beforehand. What you see is a lot of people, and I see a lot of projects that come out, like in the short film areas and everything else. And people tend to, from what I see in a lot of these projects, stick with like the lead roles as being their own race, especially if it's like written and directed by a white person. Almost always. Like I've seen it all the damn time. Doesn't mean that they're bad, but it's just like there are things where, like, I think I was watching one the other day where a guy was picking up his girlfriend. His girlfriend lives in like a black neighborhood. She's a white girl living in a black neighborhood, and it's a white guy picking her up, and it's like having dinner with her white family. Like, well, okay. Like, this is your prime example of showing this other culture here. I'm not saying that they're obligated to do it, but I'm saying, like, it would be nice to see something on the other scope of things. The projects that I'm part of a group that we do short films with, where we had this one guy in our group that wrote this brilliant idea about a hitman.
Mm-hmm.
And it was... I thought he would take more liberties with it. I mean, it's like Anthony. He's a great writer. He writes great little scenes. But it was just, it needed something. And I started thinking, like, you know what? Well, I see a lot of these things like the Mayans or like all these other movies, like gang of the Hispanic gang that Bruce gets beat up from and then goes back and humiliates. Like, okay, I only really see, like, having my stepdad being Hispanic, my one whole side of my family being Hispanic. I want to see them painted in ways that I see them as people. Now, granted, these are kind of like gang characters, but let's at least see them as not using essay every fucking time they talk.
Right.
Speaking ways I don't see my relatives speaking at all. I'm like, like, let's write this as real dialogue where they actually speak with some level of regularity or like intellect. Like, keep the Hispanic roots going on there, but at least show them as people.
Right.
And had this twist which pissed off the original writer, because I had to go back and rewrite this thing to actually try to make sense of it. The director and producer is like, well, why don't you make the hitman in this that's turning on his boss, him and the boss's guard actually be secretly together. Like, okay, well, I'll write some light Spanish dialogue in here because that's how my family talks. But it still came off like, compared to what I was given versus what came Indiana, what company, versus what we came out with, the dialogue was there, and you actually were able to see them more as people. Like, just trying to get out of the whole gang situation altogether. But you could actually kind of like identify with them on some level versus what it originally was. So it's like what I would like to see with like a lot of these films is, as you said, diversity is great. It's always great. And I think it's a very, very high necessity right now. It needs to be done. It needs to start being done more often.
Right.
The stereotypes need to go. The same old trope that you see in all these things, it needs to go. Like you said. Make them
Josh.
people.
It needs to go, Josh.
I will get on that.
Yeah, you and all your gingers, Josh. I can't believe it, man. God.
I'm taking a note. Let's see.
Dye your hair.
Stop.
Hey, speaking of gingers, how is your sister doing?
She's doing fine.
Right.
She keeps
Let her know
asking me to come visit.
Let her know I asked about her.
I will.
So, I mean,
I will, for sure.
But, like, in short, basically, as you said, Kinte, like, there needs to be more call towards awareness of, the gender differential. Now, there are things I don't understand it. I don't expect to understand it. But, you know what? If you identify as one way or the other, I'll identify you however you want me to identify you, just to be respectful of you. But as I said, times change, and people and art, especially, does tend to evolve. Mm-hmm. We need to evolve with it. Otherwise, it's just going to be the same crap that comes out because we're not evolving. The film industry is barely evolving at all. They just had different cameras. That's it. It's the same stuff that comes out every year, but now we have this whole other culture that's coming up. The black culture is coming up with like these fantabulous stories and is being attacked for being racist. How dare you tell these stories without a white person up there? That's just racist. Like, well,
right. That's funny. That's hilarious.
Like, white people have played black people for decades.
Right.
Oh, mammy. Sound familiar?
Right. And then, there's this great video that John Oliver did about whitewashing in Hollywood. It is so great. If you guys get a chance, if y'all haven't seen it, check it out.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Because he's touched on so many things. He touched on the ancient one from... He touched on the ancient one from
John Wayne as Genghis Khan. Hilarious.
Yep. Oh God, John. Well, that was like just horrible. Because he even spoke with like his regular voice. Like he might as well have said Pilgrim at some point.
It's like if you're thinking of who can play Genghis Khan back in the day, John Wayne is the.
Yeah. All right, Pilgrim, get your bows and arrows ready. We're going to go take over this other country.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. What's an equivalent of now? That's like what Arnold Schwarzenegger as Martin Luther King.
Well, see, it's like someone brought up the whole. Okay, I'm not a person that gets easily offended, and trust me, I get in trouble with Danielle a lot because and I will say that it doesn't make it right. But I know that I can be insensitive of certain things when it comes to race. Not that like racist stuff, but like insensitive of how I speak about things. Mm-hmm. Again, I have a very multicultural family, but like I cannot say how I should not say. Rather, half the things I do say, it's not hateful. It's just like there's no filter, and it's like my brain, mouth. There you go. That's it. So I got to work on how to say stuff at times. But with that, there are still things that come about. I don't get easily offended. And you can tell when someone gets offended for the sake of just simply being offended. Mm-hmm. Because like, look at this, and I refer to it as cancel culture. Now I know that there is the, you said something, you're paying your freedom of speech versus freedom of consequences. You said something, guess what? You got to reap what you sow. I believe in that. I sincerely do. Mm-hmm. But there was a girl that tried to start a petition called Cancel Robert Downey Jr. because he did blackface in Tropic Thunder. Mm-hmm. And I had to explain to her, and it got heated. And this is a friend of mine, got really heated because I told her, like, you have to understand. That is the entire point of that character, and it's touched upon in the movie. Like, it was touched upon in that very movie about him doing blackface by the black supporting actor in the film that ripped into him because he did this. And his way of calming him down was reciting the theme song to the Jeffersons to him Like I told, like that right there is a poster child of what is wrong in the film industry. Because it goes back to like now you're not going to see blackface. I don't think you're going to see blackface. I mean, look at all the shows that got rid of anything that had any similarities to blackface in them in the last year. But as you said, the whitewashing part, there are roles. Oh God, what was it? The firefighter from 9/11. For Christ's sake, man, there was a firefighter that was black, and in the movie World Trade Center, I think he was portrayed by a white man.
And done by what's his face? Oliver Stone, who's supposed to be big time liberal.
Yeah, and it was Josh, I wish that we could pull up a picture of the actual fireman versus the. I really wish we should have been doing pictures tonight. World Trade Center whitewash. Here it is. Okay. There's an article I just pulled up here from 2006, actually. So, they were pissed about it then, too. Who was it? It was...
I can show it on share screen.
Marine Sergeant Thomas. He was a black man.
Yeah, it's on the screen if you guys.
And who was the actor that portrayed him? Because I know it was a white guy. But I mean, it's like it's this guy was a hero. This guy was a hero. No, it's been years since I've seen World Trade Center, so I can't remember like the size of this role in the film. Because I know it was like largely centered around Nicolas Cage, but it's just I remember reading about that back in 2009. Because I never saw the movie until that point, and based on a real story, yada yada yada. I'm like, well, why are people angry? I don't get it because there's black actors in here too. Like, and I realized like they actually cast a white guy to play a black a real life black person that died in the World Trade Center. Like, that's horrible. See, it's still happening now. Granted, this movie is like what 15, I think, years, almost 15 years old. That's still so damn recent. If you think about all the advancements that have happened in black cinema.
But if you think about it too, it actually it's worse because because people forget about the controversy and it just becomes the record of the events.
But the thing is people are so ready to cancel someone. Now, I'm a firm believer in views changing. A tiger can't change their stripes no more than a leopard can change their spots. Granted.
Oh, that's Tom Cruise's cousin who played him.
Oh, Jesus. But my point is that going into politics.
William Malcolm
right?
out there, yeah. Sorry.
Going into politics for just like a brief moment here. The new thing right now is that Joe Biden was best friends with a Grand Wizard of the KKK. He was never a Grand Wizard of the KKK. And I'm not going to get into Biden versus Trump or all that stuff, but I will say that the man that was in the KKK that Joe Biden was very much friends with left the KKK after he got into the government. And it was one of the people that signed off on the Civil Rights Act and spent his entire life trying to show that he doesn't feel that way. Now, I'm not going to defend the decision to join KKK. I don't want anyone to ever take that as what I'm saying. That is horrible. It should have died back at the turn of the last century. It should have been like completely gone. It's so stupid and it's just vile. But with that, like, look at Zack Snyder. He said some stuff. He said some stupid shit, really stupid shit. I cannot tell you how many times I look at my Facebook memories and I see shit that I wrote like 10, 12 years ago as a joke. And I go back and I'm like, nope, delete. That is not me anymore. It's never meant serious. And it's not like that's racial, like derogatory racially or anything like that. But like I wrote this feature-length script called The Groomsman in 2009. 2010, I entered into a film festival, a screenwriting contest rather. I won third place out of thousands of entries. I went back and reread my script. That's embarrassing, man. Times change, things evolve, but along with things evolving, humor does too. The script is a comedy. I use the F word to describe, gay people in it quite a bit in the script, but it's also how my friends use
the word friend.
The other word for a cigarette.
Oh, okay.
Now, I go back, I reread this, and in the copy I have, I got rid of every single derogatory term that I wrote in there, because even though it was based on me and my friends and how we would talk to each other, like when we were like in high school, whatever else, like, as I said, times evolve, people need to evolve with them. You need to grow or nothing will change.
Right. Yeah. It is weird though when you see movies and then you see like from a certain time period and then there's things that you cringe now, but at the time it was totally fine. There's one thing I always bring up is this thing I call it the hysterical woman. And that's when a woman is kind of losing her, getting hysterical, and then the cure of it in the film is for the main character to slap her, and then she's like, "Oh, good now," and it's like now when you see it, you're like, "Oh, wow, that's kind of that's kind of effed up," when you see it now. Like Chinatown has like one of those scenes with Faye Dunaway where Jack Nicholson smacks her and she, gets some sense after that, but
let's go with derogatory terminology too. Okay. Let's look at fairly recent in the last 11 years, 12 years, The Hangover. I cannot tell you, I don't know if you're like me. I saw it in theaters. I could not stop laughing.
Right.
It was so stupid. It was just so damn dumb, but it was hysterical.
Right, the first one.
Now, when the guys pull out, the first one's they should have stopped after the first one.
Right.
The second one was okay, but it was just a remake of the first one. It was like a reboot.
Right.
But in the first Hangover, when Stu is inside talking to, I think her name was Melissa, like the really controlling and verbally abusive woman that he wants to propose to, you see them pulling up outside, and she's like, "I just wish that your friends were as mature as you are." And you hear Bradley Cooper, paging doctor, and then,
Right.
Because he doesn't just go F-A-G. He goes a whole word. And then he says it again. And then she's like, "Oh, I think I should go." And then the girlfriend's like, "Yeah, I think it's a good idea, doctor." And then says it.
Right.
I look at this this is my prime example of we have to evolve. Because you look back at this movie, you will never hear that line in the comedy today.
No.
Like, ever. That movie would instantly just be...
Not even in a Josh script.
Well, funny you should mention that because I'm working on the most offensive movie ever.
Oh, wow.
Is it a sequel to The Room?
Oh,
the other Room.
Oh, hi, Mark. That would have to be like a zombie, The Room, because, he shot himself and killed himself in the end of the movie.
The Room with zombies.
Oh, you just spoiled it. No, just playing.
Oh, God. That movie spoiled itself, Kinte.
Yeah, I actually did get through that movie, believe it or not.
Well, since the conversation has swerved into The Room, maybe it's time to start saying goodnight.
Okay.
Just for everyone listening, I got a GIF message from Josh with a guy saying, "Wrap it up." So,
wait, is he talking about
the show?
The show or something else? You need to wrap up.
This has actually been a very informative show. This is actually, I will argue, Josh, that this has probably been our most informative show that we've had for a while.
And watch, I'm not going to be on the show until the 80th episode.
No, I will make sure you are, sir.
Okay, thank you.
So
Appreciate that.
we'll
Look, I wanted to be on his show, the Netflix, and he canceled it just so he can't have me on it. Ain't that nothing?
Yeah,
We're
that's
supposed
right.
to be friends. That's why he canceled it. He was just like, "Oh, well, I'm canceling it, so you can't be on it."
Josh, you're a monster.
I
know.
am.
See, this is what I'm talking.
That
See,
movie Monster was based on Josh.
See, this is the problem, Josh. This is the problem that we are talking about on this show. This is why we cannot have advancements in the film industry, because people want to censor other people and keep their thoughts silent. How dare you?
Thank you.
I own a network.
You silly.
All right. So, all right. Well, I think we covered quite a bit of ground here. Kinte,
Did
I would
we
love to have
fix
you back.
racism? Is that what we did here today? Did we fix it?
We didn't fix racism, but we.
Well, I mean, we've definitely brought out the problems with the ginger community.
Thank you. They've been held back, and it's time for them to get their say.
I will say this though, Kinte, you have an open invitation. I think I can speak with authority on that. And if we manage to snag Avery Brooks before you do, by all means, you would be an excellent addition to our.
I'm crashing that. If you got him before me, I'm putting myself on that show. So,
just show up.
I'll be like, hey, I'll be like, welcome to the the WADcast. Oh man.
But if
next time I come on, can I bring somebody with me?
But I'm already here. Who else do you know?
Oh yeah, that's right. My bad. It was going to be Josh.
Of course, your judgment is impeccable, and if you wanted to bring somebody on, they would definitely be welcome. But if people want to hear more of your voice and the things you want to do, where can they do that?
You can get me at indyradio.org. That's indyradio.org. Right now, we're back with an all-new season of Men and Women Talk, the Mars Venus Show, which is Mondays at a new time, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. And we have a lot of great shows that are coming up. And then some of our other programs are coming up. We actually do a program based on the television show The Mayans, and we're about to get that ramped up pretty soon, me and my co-host Jen. And then the Spotlight is coming back, and looking forward to a great year of podcasting. And of course, Cinema de Fromage with Josh, Jen, and King Penguin. Thank you so much
for those guys.
Yeah, I can't wait to get back.
So we can argue about what
I
constitutes cheesy.
I know. And speaking of cheesy, my mother, who's here, is making potatoes au gratin.
Oh, I'm so happy you said something after that, man.
Oh yeah. Well, potatoes au gratin.
Cheesy. Yeah, speaking of cheesy, my mom's over right now.
That's funny.
I'm so happy that you said my mom that was here. Yeah. Because in my mind, I paused you for a second, then you continue oh my god.
Hilarious.
Brandon, where can people reach you for the inevitable backlash of tonight's episode?
I'm off the grid. I have no connections. Okay.
And who's running our Instagram account?
And so what? Sorry, everyone. You can reach me. I just had 3 shots of Jameson here and a beer. So you can reach me on Instagram at instagram.com/bjaxman82. Now it's the letter B as in boy or Brandon. Jax, Jax, like the Mortal Kombat guy. Man, because, I'm a man, at least on the outside. And the number is 82. So that's where you can find me on Instagram. Facebook, Brandon Junk. If you don't see it, I probably have you blocked. But if you do see it, hi. Stop by, say hi. Hello, stalker. But you can also follow us on Facebook. Facebook.com/the WADcast. And same with Instagram. the WADcast on Instagram. You'll know both Facebook and Instagram because we have that cute little black picture. And it's got the white banner in the middle that says, guess what? WADcast. It's right there for you to see. Click a like, click a follow, and, help out your buddies over here, your foul-mouthed buddy, and then the more stoic one, it's like having your own Jay and Silent Bob. So that's where you can find me.
Boogies.
That's my line, not yours. You're the nice one.
Okay, then I'll do this.
There he goes. You guys all saw that, right? What you guys don't know is Josh is actually doing sign language right now to all of you. And it's, one finger on two different hands.
The sign said... Okay, that's... If you are interested in my voice and other things I do, just make sure you give a follow to @Simicore Studios or Simicore Studios on Facebook, where you can catch shows like the WADcast every Friday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, where we talk about writing, acting, directing, and everything in between, as far as everything that goes into making your favorite movies. You can follow me on Twitter personally @SkitComic or the show @WADcastPod. Don't forget to go to SimicoreStudios.com or other stuff. I'm sure there's more things I'm forgetting to plug here. It's been a while since we've really, had to break it down. So, if you're listening to us live, hey, thanks. Glad you could make it. Having you in the chat makes our nights very, very much worthwhile. If you're listening to us on a delayed basis on any of the streaming platforms that run, whether it's YouTube, iHeartRadio, Spotify, blah, 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 you know where you're listening at. I don't need to tell you. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Let the world know what you think about the WADcast and the jokers that are on it. That way
and
we
please,
can move up into the almighty algorithms.
And then when you guys do that, do us a favor. If you don't lie.
Uh-oh, you kind of broke up.
Huh?
You kind of
broke up there, buddy.
Oh, I was going to say, if you guys like us, great. If you don't like us, then do us a favor and just, lie. Help us out.
That's right. 5 stars everywhere. Everywhere. Just leave 5 stars. Kinte, do you have any final words for our wonderful people here tonight?
No, just glad that you guys had me on finally after 40 episodes. But, I'm just happy for you, Josh, and you have a great show here. And I'm looking forward to the next time you have me back on in probably another 40 episodes, but it's okay.
I'm part of the show, too.
And Brandon, too.
Right. That's right. I get mine.
Well, then this is the part of the show where I start the music. And I remind all of you people out there, all of you wonderful, wonderful, wonderful people, regardless of age, creed, race, religion, whatever, that the only thing standing between you and your dreams is you. It's a new year, February. If you haven't started already getting your dreams in order, do so. Because tomorrow is not going to come until you look on today. Well, with that being said, good night, everybody. I hope you had a good time with us. We'll see you next week for episode number 41 of the WADcast.